Have you ever heard of someone tripping and falling and hitting their head onto the ground and then dying a couple days later? Or have you ever heard of somebody working a roof job and the roof being unstable and then falling 4 stories to the ground below? Or have you heard of somebody diving into a lake, landing on their neck, and then becoming paralyzed from the chest down? Well, guess what? Today, we're going to be talking about the top 5 most interesting cases that I've ever had an opportunity to work on. So the first case I want to talk about is the biggest case I've ever had the opportunity of working on, and it was a $6 million settlement. So you're probably asking, what kind of injuries did somebody have to suffer to get a $6 million settlement? Well, first of all, you need to understand that this battle took almost 5 years. And what happened in this case is that a client of mine was riding his motorcycle, and as he was riding his motorcycle, he was cut off by a work truck. And when he was cut off by that work truck, my client then didn't have an opportunity to avoid him and basically ended up clipping the work truck as it cut him off. He ended up breaking the tibia and fibia, which are the major bones in his leg, and furthermore, he ended up tearing several tendons in his leg. On top of that, he ended up tearing his tricep tendon, and then he had a bunch of other spine injuries. And of course, road rash and scars all over his legs and his body. So in regards to that accident, my client ended up going under several surgeries. He had multiple surgeries on his leg to put plates in, to move plates around, and on top of that, they had to reattach his tricep tendon to where it belongs so that he could properly use his arm. After everything, and after years of litigating the case, and after all the treatments we could get him, he is never going to be able to run or jump ever again. And we were able to get him a great result. Now, the second biggest case that I've had the opportunity of working on is a tragic case, and this was a wrongful death case. A wrongful death case means when somebody dies in an accident. So this ended up being a $4 million settlement. And in this case, what happened is one of my clients, she was showing a relative to her new condo. And when she was walking down the stairs, the handrail was misrepaired, meaning they did a repair that was improper. Handrails in specific areas are supposed to be certain heights. And what they did with the handrail is they literally forced the handrail down and they resoldered it to the ground below, which made the handrail drop multiple inches. So while this person was walking down the stairs, they were holding onto the handrail and suddenly it dipped. They fell to the ground, ended up hitting their head onto the ground and died within a couple days of this incident. It was an absolute tragedy. This decedent ended up leaving behind several family members, and we brought forth the lawsuit against the HOA to make sure that we could get full compensation for our clients who had lost that family member. It was an absolute tragedy, and that's why it's so important that all of the handrails and everything that is involved in a common area are up to code, because when handicapped individuals or elderly individuals need to use those handrails, it is important that they are properly made and maintained so that they don't cause injuries due to malfunction or due to breaking several code sections that require them to be specific heights. It was an absolute tragedy, but we were able to get the clients and the family proper compensation, but the truth is nothing can ever fully compensate for the loss of a life. Another crazy case that I worked on is I had a client who was helping to clean the roof of several buildings. But when they went to go clean the roofs of these buildings, they were cleaning solar panels. They did not provide them with any protective gear, no helmets, no ropes. They were not chained up to anything, and they were cleaning these skylights where there was literally a possibility of falling through a skylight onto the ground below, which was 4 stories to the ground below, which was complete cement. This client ended up slipping while washing these solar panels and literally fell through a skylight and fell 4 stories to the ground below, broke most of the bones in his body, but was able to survive. It is a crazy case, and it's a true testament that I believe when your time is your time, you're gonna go. And I've heard of people losing their lives in much simpler situations, but in this situation, he fell 4 stories, broke all of his bones, but he is gonna make a full recovery. He'll obviously have injuries for the rest of his life, but he is able to use all of his body parts and still function as a normal individual. This is a horrific story, and this actually happened to one of my best friends, and it was the saddest phone call I've ever received because it was so close to home for me. One of my friends was on a boat, and when you're on a boat, the person who's driving the boat has a responsibility to keep everybody safe. It's the same thing as having somebody at your home or if you own a business. And he knew that everybody was intoxicated and they were drinking. When they were on the boat, everybody asked to use the restroom. Well, he stopped in the middle of the lake and he didn't warn people that it was completely shallow where he stopped. And they had no idea that the ground was so close to the water. Well, my friend ended up diving head first into the shallow water, landed on his neck, and is now a quadriplegic, which means he's not able to use his hands and his legs and is paralyzed pretty much from the chest down. It was a horrific situation, and we were able to get the client a $2.3 million settlement in that situation. And $2.3 million sounds like a lot of money, but the truth is when you're a quadriplegic, your case is worth tens of millions of dollars, but this was the max amount of money that we were able to get through insurance and through the assets. And it's a horrific situation. And that's why if you're driving a boat or driving a car, it's extremely important that you're extremely safe and you take care of the people that are in your control. I like to joke and say that my job is like the movie Final Destination. If any of you remember what that is, all the most freak ways that accidents can happen, roller coasters, or just the weirdest way that something breaks, or somebody slipping and falling, hitting their head on a spike, like these things do happen. I had a client who was working in a warehouse and they were simply putting a bungee cord around a ladder. That bungee cord came detached, flew at their eye, and literally dislodged their eyeball. And now they are completely blind in that eye. It was a completely horrific situation, and so it is extremely important that no matter what job you're doing, be extra careful because you never know how you can get injured, and something horrific as losing your eye can happen in an instant. So these are the 5 cases that were some of the craziest cases I've ever worked on. If you know anybody that's been in a horrific situation or that's been hurt in an accident, my name is Joe Naz. I'm here to help them heal. You can always reach me at my cell phone, which is 949-690-6211, and if you could do me a favor, comment below or maybe share the craziest accident that you've heard in the comments, or if you have more questions and want to hear more stories, let me know. I have so many more stories I can share.